Welcome back, guys. In this video today we're going to look at bobbin problems. People have all sorts of problems with the bobbin, and we have done a ton of research into this. We've looked through forums and discussion boards online to kind of find all the problems people have with the bobbin. And we've turned it into this video where we go through them step by step, showing you exactly what is wrong and how you can solve the problem. Alright, so the first thing you always want to do when you have a problem with your bobbin thread is to re-thread the machine. You should do it for both the upper and the lower thread. I've taken off my accessory tray here to be able to access the bobbin here. This is a front-loaded bobbin system. On the front-loaded bobbin system, you have the bobbin in here. We also have top-loaded bobbin systems where the bobbin will be placed horizontally below the foot. It doesn't matter what type of bobbin system you're using. In Europe, they tend to use more of the front-loaded machines, and in the States, it's like 50-50 from the top or the front-loaded. That doesn't really matter. Just make sure you're threading your machine properly. Look in the manual or look up a video on YouTube about threading your specific machine if you don't know how to do that. It'll take too long to go over it in this video. The next thing you need to do is to change the needle. Maybe you're using the wrong needle size. If you are sewing in heavy fabric like leather or so on, you might be using the wrong needle. What could happen, even if you're using the correct needle, sometimes the needle will hit the bobbin, especially if you're using the top-loaded bobbin. If your bobbin is placed up here, sometimes the needle, when it's pinching up and down, sometimes it will hit the bobbin. And on the top-loaded machines, the bobbin case will often be made of plastic. So if it takes a hit or two, it doesn't probably matter, but if it takes a lot of hit, it might get damaged. You also want to make sure that you're using the correct bobbin size. If you are working on an industrial model or a professional model, you might be able to use a lot of different bobbins because the little pin that the bobbin is attached to is wider, so you can actually use a lot of different bobbins. If you're on a home sewing machine, this shouldn't be the problem, but make sure you're using a bobbin and a bobbin case from the right brand and specifically made for your machine. If the bobbin thread won't come up when you start sewing and when you are threading the machine, make sure you're always turning the hand wheel towards you. And also make sure that the presser foot is up when you're doing it. Another common problem people have with the bobbin is that the thread keeps looping underneath the fabric. So whenever you stop sewing, you take out the fabric, you look at the back of the fabric, and you will have little loops here and there. This could happen because you threaded your machine while the presser foot was down. If you're doing that, you will get exactly that, or you might just get a lot of bird nesting on the back of the fabric. Another thing that could cause a problem is if you're not having the right thread tension on the bobbin or on the upper thread. You would think that it would only be caused by the bobbin thread, but having little loops underneath the fabric after you stop sewing could also be from having the wrong tension from the upper thread. Because what would happen if you have the wrong tension up here is that every time the needle goes up, the take-up lever will go up and down to tie the stitch nicely, and if it can't do so, you will have little loops. And that's another thing you need to make sure. You need to make sure that you've threaded your machine properly by remembering to put the thread also around the take-up lever. If you forget that, you will definitely have bird nesting or you will have little loops underneath your fabric. You also need to check that you're using a proper thread quality. If there are little knots on the thread or if it's uneven, it might get stuck inside the needle hole once in a while, and it will cause you a lot of trouble. And it might look like you're having bobbin problems. That could be the case. It could also be the upper thread that's a low quality. So make sure always to buy a good quality thread for the upper thread and also for the bobbin thread. If you're trying to save a few bucks on the thread, it's just not worth it because it will cause you so much trouble. You might also have a problem with the tension on the bobbin thread. It's very uncommon that this is actually the problem, but if you take out the little bobbin case here, you will find that somewhere here on the bobbin case there's a little screw. If you tighten that just a little bit, you will increase the tension on the bobbin thread. You need to be able to have it hanging like this, and if you shake your hand a little bit, it might release a bit of thread. Then you have the right amount of tension on the bobbin thread. If it's too tight, it will not work. If it's too loose, it won't work. So you can use this little screw, as I said, but always make sure to only turn it a little bit clockwise or counterclockwise. Clockwise to tighten a little bit, and counterclockwise to loosen it a little bit. If you have weird noise coming from your machine or from the bobbin area itself, you also need to give your machine a good clean. Every second time you're changing the bobbin thread, you need to give your machine a good clean. Never use an air blower, because you will only blow the dirt and the lint further into the machine, and you might cause much bigger problems. What you want to be doing is to give it a little vacuum or use a little brush that came with your machine. A good tip we found is to apply a little bit of oil on the brush. And as you brush after you cleaned the machine the best you could, you will remove the last pieces of lint, while you will also give it a good oil. So these were the tips for you in the video. On our website we created an article that's very lengthy and has a lot more detail to it. That will definitely get you going again quickly if this didn't solve your problem. Alright, see you guys next time. Bye.